2017, we need to have a talk. Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and it's time once again for another episode of Rachel Reviews, so let's just hop into it. Okay, so today is gonna be a little different, because I went and saw The Rings, and I have a lot to say about it. So rather than just talk about the movie and like what made it good and what made it bad, we're gonna kind of walk through it. So this is gonna be a very spoilers review. If you haven't seen the movie yet, you really don't need to care because I doubt you're gonna see it anyway, but I mean, if you really want to see it, then I guess click away. So this is the second sequel to the 2002 film The Ring, which I already talked about, which is a wonderful film. It's amazing. It scared the hell out of me when I saw it. It's still great to this day. I love it. There was another movie, The Ring 2, released in 2005, I think, but that was stupid. We can maybe talk about that another day, but today we're talking about Rings, which is, like I said, the third movie. I will be honest, I went into this movie expecting it to be bad, not so great, and probably really gimmicky, but not even I could predict how bad this was gonna be. So the movie starts and, okay, so there's the Paramount logo, right, with the stars and everything, it's a big circle. My friend who I was with, who I saw Blair Witch with, by the way, he said to me, like, as that logo was coming up, he was like, I bet you anything that circle of the stars is gonna have the ring, and sure enough, there's the Ring logo. It kind of flashes real quick like it did in the first movie, but it was there. We were both like, yep, there it is. The very first scene of this movie is on an airplane, and it's flying into Seattle, go figure. But the plane's about to land, and this guy is like really nervous on the plane, and there's this hot girl right next to him, and she starts talking to him, and she's like, you know, it's okay, you'll be fine, it helps to talk sometimes. So the guy's like, okay, you want me to talk? I'll talk to you. Have you heard about this video that kills you? And she's like, what? Yeah, it takes like 7 days, and I watched it. I watched it 7 days ago. And he's like, I guess I have like 5 more minutes. If I can just make it through 5 more minutes, then I'm in the clear. So if you know the original story, then okay, what idiot has like very little time to live and knows he's gonna die and knowingly gets on a plane when the deadline is gonna be? It's like, dude, what do you think is gonna happen? So anyway, he's freaking out, then he gets a nosebleed, and then all of a sudden, I kind of knew this was coming because I saw this in the trailers, but all of a sudden, all the screens on the plane, on the TV screens of the plane, starts playing the videotape, the Samara videotape. And the plane starts shaking, and it looks like it's going down, and everyone's like, oh no! And suddenly there's flies everywhere, and the cockpit bursts open, and then the guy who was there earlier, he like is like freaking out and running all but down the aisles, and suddenly he sees the screen in the cockpit, and Samara starts crawling out, and he's like, oh no! And it like flashes really quick the video, and then the scene ends. I understand why they kind of had this scene. It was meant to like freak us out as to like what this thing can do, but if you've never actually seen the Ring series at all, then you're gonna be very confused as to like what exactly that was. Not only that, but it was just straight up silly. It didn't register as like scary at all. And when this scene was playing, I even turned to my friend and I was like, yo, this movie is so not meant to be taken seriously. Only problem is the rest of the movie is meant to be taken seriously. So with that scene out of the way, we cut to 2 years later, and we cut to John Galecki of all people. And he like runs into this girl, and they're like looking at VHS tapes and a VHS player, and he's all like, you know, back in the day, this was like top notch, and it's very valuable. I think he was trying to impress this girl that I think they just met. But then it cuts to a scene of the two of them in his apartment together, and like she walks away. I guess they're a couple now, or I don't know. It turns out he bought the VHS player because I guess in this universe those things are really valuable. And while trying to make it work, he discovers the cursed video inside of the player. But then he plays the tape, and what's weird is they don't actually really show the tape being played. Like, we don't actually see it. You're just like looking at him going like, oh, what is this thing that I'm looking at? And then when the tape's over, of course, the phone rings and he picks it up, and then you hear 7 days. But it's actually literally the exact same soundbite of Samara saying 7 days from the first movie. But then he looks outside and suddenly like it's raining, but like the rain is like raining up or something. And then he sees like a lightning flash, but of the well. And then the scene just ends. Okay, so on to story 3, again, 10 minutes into the movie. We're not even 10 minutes into the movie, and now we've reached the third story. We jump to this couple in bed, in a nice sunny bed, and they're all like giggly and happy and all like there's cutie patootie boyfriend, and then I think Jessica Alba's younger sister. I don't remember their actual names in the movie. I'm just gonna call him Cutie Patootie and call her Alba's sister. And they're all like in bed and they're all talking and she's all like, I wish you didn't have to leave. And he's like, I know, I wish I didn't have to too. So after like 30 seconds of like cutesy dialogue, the alarm goes off and I shit you not, it reads 7:07 in the morning. Okay, first of all, I see what you're doing there with the whole like die in 7 days thing, 7:07, but who the hell sets their alarm for 7:07? If you had just set it for 7 a.m., that would have been clever enough. You don't need to do 7:07. Why? Anyway, it turns out that he is leaving for college, which I see a lot of weird things here because first of all, what are they doing in bed together? Like, I thought this was like their apartment. Why does it seem like they're upstairs in one of their parents' bedrooms? It's like, what universe do we live in that well put together teenagers like these two teenagers can sleep in the same bed together? Anyway, it's very corny. He leaves for college. She's all like, meh, but whatever. They end up Skyping and then he suddenly stops returning her calls. So she gets all like concerned and she's like, I wonder where he is. She decides to go to the college to find him, you know, rather than like trying to call his parents or some other mutual friends to find out if they've heard from him or check his Facebook status. But anyway, long story short, she breaks into his dorm room. Can you say breaking and entering? Hello. She finds his cell phone, so we, the audience, are like, oh my goodness, oh no, what's happened to him? He must be dead or something. Sees all these like missed calls. Oh, and then she like sees his schedule, so she goes to his class that's currently going on. He's not there, but she sees the professor, who is Johnny Galecki, by the way. She tries to ask him where he is, but he doesn't know because they're like, oh, I teach so many kids, I don't know who this person is. But she ends up following him and okay, this scene. She follows him to the 7th floor. Seeing a pattern here? The 7th floor of a building. And when she finally finds where he is, it's in this like, what looks like a nightclub but built around the tape. You can see like images like projected on the walls and people are like, look like they're drinking drinks or something. Like that's what it seems like. It seems like it's a nightclub. But it kind of turns out later that it's actually an experiment from him. Like, I guess somewhere off screen he figured out the elements of the tape and found out that you have to copy it in order to, you know, survive. And it's this like whole thing where like he's roping people into this experiment and like making people watch the video and then pass it on to other people. And it's just like this whole weird thing. And I'm just like thinking to myself, like, where was this movie? This whole idea that was like off screen somewhere, that would have made us such a better film. You totally ripped us off from a good movie, Paramount. Anyway, Galecki's arguing with the girl that he like, I think met earlier, and she storms off, so Alba's sister follows her, and Galecki's girlfriend basically is like, okay, I need to show you something. I really need to show you something. It's really important. Basically, she needs to show Alba's sister the video so that she can survive because apparently she's like minutes away from, you know, her deadline. Alba's sister ends up locking herself in the bathroom because she's freaked out, which means time is up for Galecki's girlfriend. So then, of course, the TV turns on and here comes Samara, and what is pretty funny and also somewhat creative is that she ends up unplugging the TV. It's a widescreen TV, and then she like crashes it onto the floor. But as we all know, Samara cannot be stopped, and Samara ends up crawling out from under the widescreen TV. And of course it kills her. And oh, what also pisses me off is that when they kind of go in for the close-up of Samara, like right as she kills her, not the least bit scary. At least, you know, like in the original film where she had that like really vengeful look on her face and it's like literally one of the most terrifying things ever put to screen? Yeah, no, doesn't even compare. You couldn't even get that right. So after that ordeal, Alba's sister comes out from the bathroom and discovers the dead body, and then who shows up? The boyfriend! Oh, he's okay, oh thank God, oh my God, oh, where the hell was he? So the boyfriend is also apparently on a deadline. He literally has like 12 hours before his deadline hits. And This is actually really weird. I don't get this part because before they were building it up like he was missing or something. Like that's why his cell phone was in his room and why he didn't attend class. Okay, first of all, what cutie patootie college student like him is without his cell phone? Especially when he's on a literal deadline and could die soon. You'd think he would have actually attended that class and would have been like, yo, where is the person that I need to show this video to? Where are they? Where are they? No, they just like have him missing for no reason. What was up with that? But he gets in touch with the Galecki guy and he's like, dude, we need to find somebody for me to show this video to. And he's like, don't worry, I'll find someone. So then he and the girlfriend like go to bed, even though he like has, again, hours to live. So the girlfriend is like, I want to help him. So she ends up watching the video herself to save him. It's like, okay, fine, self-sacrificial, that makes sense, I guess. Oh, and then she also gets the phone call. She gets the phone call too, which oddly enough does not wake up the boyfriend. And again, Samara comes on the phone and she's like, 7 days. Same exact soundbite yet again. And then the boyfriend wakes up and he's like, oh my God, what'd you do? I don't know, but I saw this image. Yeah, right after watching the video, she actually sees this image of a door. And that will get explained later, but it's weird that she starts seeing images right away because that definitely didn't happen in the first movie. And then the phone rings and it's on vibrate. This kid is so stupid. He's hours away from dying and he's waiting for his professor to call him with someone for him to show the video and he has the phone on vibrate? Dude, if that was happening to me, I would have had that sucker on high volume. I do have my phone on high volume when I have somewhere to be the next day and it's an emergency. So then they go to Galecki and they like start talking about what they're supposed to do next and he explains how he like knows all this stuff about the video. Again, he just kind of found out all this stuff off screen somewhere, but it would have been like so much more interesting if we had seen how he came across all that. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention that right after Alba's sister got the phone call, she like got a burn on her hand and there's something on her hand. They're like, oh, what is that? Galecki takes a scan of the burn so he can try to figure out what it means. Now here's where things really get weird. So they try to copy the video, which is a digital file, which I'm not gonna lie, actually, that's kind of clever how like it's like copy the file, pass it on to someone else. Yeah, because you had to copy the VHS before, but now you could just copy the file. That actually kind of makes sense. But anyway, they try to copy the file and for some reason it won't let them. And it turns out, upon inspecting the video, it's actually a bigger size. And then they play it and only Alba's sister watches it because they don't want everyone else to be like taking a look at it even though they think it's, you know, even though I think they're okay. But it turns out that there's like extra images in the video. What? And then Galecki goes on this whole thing where it's like, oh, it's like a video within a video. And you know what? I work with video editing and I didn't even understand all that. What was all of that about? And the editing's really weird too because like you'll see some of the old images from the first movie and then she'll be like, wait, there it is. And then they'll stop and go back and then they'll like show an image that like was not even there when she was just looking at it. And what pisses me off about this new footage is that in the original movie, all the stuff that was on the screen actually looked like they were there. Like everything was actually shot for real. But no, actually all these new images, they look completely digitized. To me, the new images just look really fake and they don't look anywhere near as creepy as the stuff from the original film, and also they barely match anything from the original film too. These are supposed to be images of real things from a little girl. Like, why? We got books flying everywhere and then like a corpse burning and a snake eating a tail. And of course, as the movie goes on, we will find out what some of that stuff means, but then a lot of it we just won't. So after looking at some newspaper clippings, they decide that they need to go to this town where they think Samara's body is buried and find out just like what the hell is with all of this like new stuff that's on the tape. But anyway, Galecki gets a phone call and he's like, oh, okay, sure, seems normal. But then he's like, yeah, that was the police and they're coming here regarding my girlfriend. Then he takes them outside and gets them in this car and he's like, okay, look, I think I know what's happening or how we can solve all this. So he sends them off with his research so he can wait for the police. And by the way, we never see the scene where the police come. We actually like later on in the movie like see him in his apartment again as if he's like still waiting for the police and they haven't shown up. Wow, 2017 security is really top notch now. So Cutie Patootie and Alba's sister go to this town and they check into a hotel and they talk to people and they find like this church and with all these like birdies flying all over the place and it was like from the image on the tape and it looks completely fake. And then they find like the place where Samara's body was buried, which is I guess what happened after they took her body from the first movie and like took it, I guess that's where it ended up going, was to this town that would be like okay with burying her. But then through some weird jump scares and through some weird petty research It turns out the body is missing from its grave and now they need to look elsewhere for it. Oh, and then we come across, get this, Vincent D'Onofrio. Yep. Vincent D'Onofrio is in this movie. And here's what really cracks me up is like, he's a character who's blind. He's got like the sunglasses and everything, and he appeared in the trailers, and he's like such a typical like horror movie trope. He's like this blind character who's like, you've opened up a whole world, and like subtext wise I can see everything that's going on, and even though I'm blind, like I know all. And actually the one line that did crack me up in this movie was when he was like, hi, I watch over these parts. Get it? Because he's blind! And he talks to these kids, and honestly, I don't really remember much about what they talked about. I think they talked about like Samara's remains, and we're trying to figure out like what's going on, and blah 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 blah. But then there's a part where he feels the wound that's on her hand, which turns out is Braille. Yeah, apparently Samara was in the well for so long that she actually took the time to teach herself Braille so that she could freak people out one day. And actually, no, we already knew that because the Galecki character found out that it was Braille beforehand and he tried to warn them. But Cutie Patootie is not picking up his phone, which is completely inaccurate because millennials these days, they always be on their phone. And you'd think that if he needed to be reached, he would have his phone on him. I'm sorry, this dude is freaking stupid. Kid, you are adorable as hell, but oh my god, Alba's sister, you pick like the dumbest idiot on the block for a boyfriend. Anyway, we know it's Braille, we just don't know what it is. He's like, why is this marking on your palm? Like he knows what it is, but like he just won't tell them what it is. Oh my god, just And then the Galecki character like goes to the town, but then there's like an accident which he's in off screen, and then he like gets electrocuted by a falling pole very randomly that he was killed. I guess Samara's just kind of like just killing people randomly now for no reason. Sounds like Samara's not even out for revenge anymore. She just really wants to punk people. So then, later on that night, Alba's sister decides to sneak out and go to this church that was in the video and tries to do some like exploring and see what's going on. And she comes across this basement when of course they've got like all the very typical like stuff that's scratched on the wall. We got like tally marks, and we've got the help and all this other like random bullshit that's like, oh, it's so stereotypically horror movie. And then she comes across the door, the very first image that she saw. There's the door. What does it all mean? What does it all mean? And then we get the flashbacks from the second movie where we found out that Samara was adopted and she was apparently like almost killed by her actual mother. Okay, so it turns out that her mother, Evelyn, I think was her name, Evelyn, was kept in this basement. Turns out there was this priest that kept her in the basement and was pregnant with Samara. Okay, I need to step away from this movie real quick. I never understood this from The Ring 2. In The Ring 2, it's established that Samara was adopted by the Morgan family from the first movie. But in the first movie, I could have sworn that they made it seem like she was conceived unnaturally. Like Anna Morgan, the mother from the first movie, actually conceived Samara, and then she was just this evil that had to be destroyed. And the reason I think that is because, first of all, they had Rachel looking at a birth certificate with like the parents' names on it, and it said Samara Morgan. It was an actual birth certificate. And then a couple minutes later, the father, Richard Morgan, is all like, my wife was not supposed to have a child. As if like, again, she was kind of conceived unnaturally. Like, I thought that that's what kind of like made her so evil. And now she's adopted? So that's what pissed me off about the second movie, was establishing she was adopted, even though that kind of makes no sense. But then this movie, they go off of that whole adoption thing, and it turns out that she was conceived by a priest. And that's it. It's not that like this priest was like super evil or working with the dark arts or anything like that. Nope, he was just this priest who wanted to create some kind of special spawn. And somehow he like knew that he would create a special spawn. They didn't explain anything as to like why he thought he would create a special spawn. Now, I will give the movie huge credit here. They actually did have a little bit of a twist that I did not see coming, and that's that Vincent D'Onofrio, as the blind dude, caretaker, whatever he is, turns out that he's the priest. Oh, so Vincent D'Onofrio is Samara's father. Why is that significant? Alba's sister confronts him about this, and it suddenly turns into Don't Breathe, because like he's now chasing her and he tries to kill her, or I don't really know what he's trying to do. Is he trying to like rape her? Because at one point he like holds her down, he's like, good girl. Good girl. But then out of freaking nowhere, when Alba's sister thinks she's in a safe place, she's like gets the tape on her cell phone. Oh, and by the way, did I mention this is also when she finds Samara's body or bones or, you know, her remains in the wall of his house? And I don't know why that is. Did he think that that would like protect him from her by just like trapping her inside the walls? But then Vincent D'Onofrio shows up and he like really corners her, and then he's like, you know why I'm blind? I made myself blind. And again, I will give a little credit that he says that he made himself blind because if he can't see Samara, then she can't kill him. Yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense, because it was the whole like, if you don't actually watch the video, then it can't harm you. Like, that makes sense, okay. But then, as he's like attacking Alba's sister, suddenly Samara starts coming out of the cell phone with like all these flies and or bugs or I don't know, something disgusting. But anyway, she's rising out of the cell phone, which is like, oh my god, really? And then she makes Vincent D'Onofrio unblind, and for some like, I don't know, weird, stupid reason, she kills him. So then like Alba's sister and Cutie Patootie, they like get the bones, or like, I know how we can set her free, and they end up burning them, and she's like, no, it's safe, it's all good, it's safe. Except remember in my last video when I said if everything seems like it's okay, it's definitely not okay. Oh, and also, she never reaches the 7-day deadline. Like, this whole thing takes place in like 2 days. What works so well about the first movie is they actually work through all 7 days to the point of the climax, so there was actually a lot of suspense. But here it's just like, okay, she seems to be solving everything within like 48 hours. I guess she's okay regardless. Then they go back to the nice, happy, sunshine bedroom that they were in before. I don't know whose bedroom that was supposed to be, but anyway, Alba's sister goes and takes a shower, and of course stuff starts to get weird. She ends up like coughing up hair, her skin starts peeling, and this is where Cutie Patootie is again a freaking idiot, because he finally sees the messages from the professor, because in the messages he's like, I know what the mark on her hand means, it's in Braille, I'm coming to find you guys, you know, without even saying what it was. So then he goes on the computer and researches what the Braille on her hand was, and it turns out it spells out rebirth. Okay, are you ready for the really stupid twist of this movie now? So the reason why Alba's sister's skin is like being peeled away and she's like suddenly got all this stuff coming out of her, it turns out that Samara is being reborn in her body. She's like literally possessing her body so that she can come out and like world domination. Oh, by the way, remember when I said in the last video that she was maybe bent on world domination? Well, actually it kind of turns out that's actually what this is. Because during the scene when her skin is peeling and she's like being possessed by Samara on her computer, suddenly like the video gets sent to like a ton of people. So it sounds like she's trying to spread this video like wildfire and possess someone's body, and now she's going to, you guessed it, take over the world. And then the movie ends. What did I just watch? So from this movie, I learned that this is kind of the timeline of Samara. She was just kind of chillaxing in this well, her spirit was for a long time, and she was all like, you know, like, I'm lonely, and I'm gonna make this videotape, and I'm gonna take on my vengeance on the world. So then she gets found by Rachel and spares her life because she like did the right thing and copied the video. But then according to the next movie, it turns out she's like, you know what? I'm really lonely. You know what I want now? I want a mommy. So then she tries to make Rachel her mommy, which was already so silly and just like completely downgraded the character, and I don't even want to touch on that. She doesn't get a mommy, end of story. Samara is supposedly stopped forever according to that movie. But then it turns out, no, not so much. Actually, for the last like 15 years, she was like plotting to like find out how to create a host so that she can now take over the world. Samara, I'm sorry, but you are so freaking inconsistent, girl. And when those credits started rolling, I seriously, in that movie theater, there was like 10 people in there total. I didn't care. I was like, fuck this movie! This movie was, oh, it made me so angry. This is the movie they were trying to make for the last 10 years? Basically, rather than give us a compelling movie that helps us understand Samara or anything else better, it just gives us the stupid basic horror movie plot that really doesn't add up with super lame cliches and some of the blandest characters I've ever seen in my entire life. And you know what? I didn't even touch on the horrible dialogue that's in this movie either. This movie was not a psychological thriller like the first one. It wasn't clever, it was lazy as hell, and it was just straight up dumb. There's like a few jump scares, but honestly, I like barely fell for any of them. I think my friend that I was with, he fell for a few more of them, but I was just like, I was so like, just, nothing affected me. Nothing at all. I seriously think that maybe after a while Paramount just like saw this script and was like, yeah, sure, why not? By the way, that title Rings confuses me. It's like we put an S on it, making it plural, and then took the away, and apparently that makes it a good title. But wait a minute, there's already a movie in this franchise called Rings. Do you guys remember, like, I think around the time The Ring 2 came out, they also released that, like, short film about the kids who discovered the secrets behind the videotape, and then they actually, like, made this whole online thing of, like, passing around the video to each other? Yeah, that movie was called Rings. So now you've already made the huge mistake of having 2 movies within your franchise actually called Rings. How much more lazy can you possibly get? You know, actually, that plot, that's what should have been the plot of this movie. That would have been so much better as a feature-length film rather than just a short movie. I remember back when that was released, I was like, dude, this would be good. Why can't there be a sequel to The Ring, but in this form? Just going more into social media or into like what kids these days can do with something like that. And what also really pisses me off is if you go watch the trailers, there's a lot of things in those trailers that don't even appear in this movie. Alba's sister apparently like approaches her mother from the back who's like all like crackling and there's something wrong with her. That's never in this. Also, there's a part where I think she takes off her shirt and there's like the circle on her back. I don't think that was in this either. God damn it, movie trailers, you're not doing us audience members any favors by showing us stuff that never shows up in the movie. This movie, I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, it was not even entertainingly bad. It just pissed me off. Call me a purist, but I loved the aesthetic of the original movie and just the whole, just everything behind it. All the mystery, all the things we didn't know, all the things that we found out, all the twists, all the setups and everything. And just nothing in this franchise since then has even come close to living up to that. Except for the short Rings film. That actually could make a really good movie, and I don't know why they didn't do anything with that. So anyway, is this a movie you should see in the theaters? No, not really. It's not gonna be scary. It's not for the people who grew up with The Ring. It's not for people who haven't seen it. It's not for anyone because it barely has any love for the first one, and in its own context, it doesn't really even make any sense. To say something nice about this movie, at least it wasn't in 3D like I said before. I say skip it unless you really want to see how much it can piss you off if you love the original film. Otherwise, just don't waste your money. I'm sorry. So those are my thoughts on... Now, of course, my question this time around is, did you even bother to see it? And if so, how much did it piss you off? Well, go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you're new and like what you saw here, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And also be sure to hit that little bell button to get notified because I make new videos here every week. Bye, Adorkable Buddies. I'll see you soon.